Joining us now is Lisa Daftari, foreign policy expert and host of the Foreign Desk. Appreciate your time. There is great hope that a hostage deal can come together, but how likely is that given the tension in the region just seems to be rising?
Yeah, the fact that it's been over 100 days that these innocent civilians continue to be held hostage and tortured and raped, and we have so many accounts from these released hostages, and the fact that the world pressure, so many deals that have been attempted to be mediated between the United States, Qatar, and between the two sides, Hamas and Israel, have failed. It doesn't look very promising at this point. In the meantime, things are escalating with Iran's regime really pulling all the puppet strings here and escalating attacks against U.S. assets in the region as the war in Israel continues against both Israel and Gaza.
Right, and as I mentioned, the fifth U.S. strike against the Houthis in the region. Is there any sign that the Houthis and Iran are going to be deterred and what that might take?
Right, and it's difficult to begin deterrence on the battlefield. Deterrence starts way before our enemies begin to start firing at us. Look, Iran's regime has spent over a decade lining up its assets in the region, so that's why you see them with many proxies. You have the Hezbollah in Lebanon, you have insurgencies in Syria and Iraq, you have the Houthis in Yemen, you have, of course, Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas that are both supported by Iran's regime. This is where we talk about deterrence in terms of sanctions, in terms of policies coming from the White House that would have deterred Iran's regime before they began firing at us. Again, long time coming. The centrifuges are spinning. We tried to control them in terms of their nuclear program. They are going to have a nuclear weapon sooner rather than later. The human rights abuses in Iran. We've seen so much of this flexing by Iran's regime, and we haven't done much in terms of policy, in terms of deterrence. And that's why we're seeing them continue to provoke the United States into a war, or at least escalations that the United States has not been able to shut down in a timely manner. We've looked at 100 days of this and over 100 strikes against U.S. assets in the region.
Yeah, and getting worse by the day. Saudi Arabia now floating the idea that peace in the region with Israel is conditioned on a Gaza ceasefire and a path to a Palestinian state. How is that being received in Israel?
Look, it's natural for the moderate Arab states to have to, at least in terms of optics, offer support to the Palestinian people. Everyone in the world wants to see this conflict come to an end. Everyone wants to see the hostages released. They want to see an end to all of this. And a two-state solution would be ideal. But the dream of that two-state solution died on October 7th when Israel realized that it cannot live next to an existential threat. It is way too dangerous. Hamas has said many times that they will continue to do October 7th over and over again. Iran's regime doesn't seem like it's going to back down. So when there is funding, where there's a will, where there's this ideology that they want to kill Jews and kill Israelis, there is no way that they can live side by side. In the terms of the moderate Arab states, the Abraham Accords, those states have offered support to both sides. Of course, they want to see peace for the Palestinians. They want to see, this war come to an end, but they also understand the issue of extremism in the region. And that is why we saw the need for the Abraham Accords, both in terms of stopping Iran's regime and also prosperity. Why not have public and private economic deals that are lucrative for both the Israelis and the moderate Arab states? And I think we're going to see a lot of that with Saudi Arabia as well. When the dust settles, we talk about the day after the war, the moderate Arab states and Saudi Arabia will see a bigger need than ever for something like the Abraham Accords to, again, A, contain the Shiite threat that comes from Iran's regime, and B, to move forward with modernity, with a focus on prosperity, and to shut down these extremist forces that are really tainting and really putting the whole region at risk of this extremism.
The thought of the day after, Lisa, it seems so distant, but I hope it's
right.
It's sooner than that. Lisa Daftari, thank you for your time and perspective.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I want to take another